Then I click on go live on Facebook. So here goes nothing. Starting live video. Now for the proper start. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. My name is Anthony Murphy from Mythical Ireland. Fáilte, Céad Míle Fáilte, Goléir. A very good and warm welcome to all of you this evening to this evening's live broadcast. And in tonight's web stream, we will be talking about the goddess Bóinn, she of the Tuatha Dé Danann. And this is episode 16. We've done 16 consecutive daily episodes of Live Irish Myths. Very glad to have you along. As a special treat, so many of you have been asking, I'm going to call the dog in, I'm going to call Coda in, and I'm going to see if he'll just jump up on me for a moment and momentarily appear on the camera. I don't want him to wreck the joint, which there's always the potential for. So many of you have heard him barking during the lives that I thought, indeed, so many of you have asked if you could see him. And in a moment then, I'll go through the greetings. Hopefully everything is okay on YouTube. Nobody's saying hello there yet, but I do see comments and viewers. And so, my son Finn is going to bring Coda in. Coda, come here. Come here, come here. Come on. No, he's not coming up. Come on, come up. Come up. Say hello, Coda. Hello. There you go. Say hello. Hello. So Coda is saying hello on this 16th episode of Live Irish Myths. He has interrupted several of the other episodes, and Finn sticking his head in there as well. Say hello. Okay, all right, okay, I like you too. Yes, I really do. I really do. Thank you, Finn. Thank you, Coda. Bye-bye. We'll see you later. So there you go. Now you know what the dog looks like, everyone. You know what he sounds like anyway. Oh, he's silly. Good boy. Yeah, that's a good boy. He's great. And Finn, such a star. Okay, so just to kick off before we get started proper, Tom the Bonk on YouTube says Diagich Trononawa August Trononawa Tosa Fame, Tom. Misha is saying hello from Florida. Hello, Misha. Very welcome. Paul Garan says, welcome back. Working at Dublin Airport tonight. Well, not very many people compared to usual working at Dublin Airport. Hope you keep safe and well, Paul. Okay, let's get to the other Facebook. Oh, a lot to catch up on there. Alex Casterson. Good evening, Anthony. Very welcome, Alex. Tracy O'Connor says, hey, hello, Tracy. Aaron Durrett. Good evening, Anthony. Good evening to the west coast of the United States. Hope you're keeping well. Dana Hicks saying hello from San Diego and says, yay, the dog. Coda has finally made his cameo appearance in Live Irish Myths. Camilla Relland is watching. Hello, Camilla. You're very welcome. Hi, everyone. Good evening, Camilla says. And Maeve Fiona Callahan is saying hello, Anthony and Coda. Hello, Maeve. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. Nick Eska Casterton says hello, Anthony, and thumbs up. And also a big thumbs up to you, Nick. Hope you're keeping well on this Friday evening. And Aaron Durrett says hi, Finn. Finn, who's on dog keeping duties tonight, and we will, in another episode, we will bring Saskia in. She will not jump up, she's not really that excitable, but I might have to put her up on my lap. Barb Jordan is in. Hello, Barb. You're very welcome along this evening. Catherine Wall McManus. Hi, Anthony and everyone. Welcome back, Catherine. Hope you are also in fine fettle. Mike Egan is in Portland in Maine. Good to see you. Very nice of you to join us, Mike. And you're very welcome along to the storytelling this evening. Catherine, loads of you are saying hello to Coda. And it is, yes, it's Koda. And he's Amy's dog. Amy's my eldest daughter. She named him. Looking forward to our Lady Goddess of the River Boann. Yes, indeed. Mariana Dunn says, good evening, Anthony. So, almost 5 minutes. Wow, it's incredible how quickly all that goes by. Christopher Weidner says good evening from Munich. A very good evening to you, Christopher, and I trust all is well with you and all your family and friends and loved ones. Francis Smith is watching from Ballyashlánne. slain at the other end of the high man's leg, the other end of the bend of the Bóinn, Tuatha on the east and slain on the west, guarding the great monuments of Bóinne. So tonight we're talking about Bóinn, Bóinn being one of the Tuatha Dé Danann, and the goddess after whom the river Boyne and Bóinne monuments is named. And so we're going to introduce her, and we're going to look at some of her mythology and the sources for that mythology, and then we'll do a little bit of interpretation of that, if that's in everybody's interest. Not doing a straight reading tonight like we did with, for instance, the Children of Lear in the past 2 episodes. I think more of a chance tonight for a little bit of a discussion and a chat, and to throw it out to all of you to perhaps make your comments and ask questions. Before I continue, as always, I have to say a very gracious thanks to the patrons of Mythical Ireland. In particular, in the past 24 hours, I have 2 new patrons. Dennis Lynch, who has become a Bronze Age patron. Thank you, Dennis. And to Lee Williams, who has become an Iron Age patron. Thank you very much, Lee. And of course, Lee, at your level of patronage, that entitles you to get your name in the credits of my videos. Where it's not possible to put credits on them, that means I'll be mentioning you by name, along with my other Iron Age patrons, who are Timothy E. Quinn, who's in California, and Fiona Ngiola who's in Western Australia. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you for your support. And if you would like to become a Mythical Ireland patron for reward, check out patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. That's patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. And there's absolutely no obligation. That's the word. Thankfully, it's Friday evening. It's been a long week, and I hope you're all in good form. Yes, there's no obligation on you whatsoever. Anyway, we'll get kicked off, and tonight, to kick off about Bóinn, we are reading from The Lore of Ireland by the late great Tuatha Dé Danann. And I've just started on the wrong page because I have several of these orange sticky bookmarks, and I went to the wrong one. Bóinn is the eponymous goddess of the river Boyne. The name earlier Bóind, B-O-F-A-I-N-D, or Boann, B-O-F-A-N-D, is derived from a primitive Irish form, Búvinda. This is one of the earliest cited Irish toponyms, occurring in Ptolemy's geography in the form Búvinda, B-U-V-I-N-D-A. Ptolemy's work dates from the 2nd century AD, but may be based on sources somewhat earlier still. In other words, we know for sure that Bóinn has been the name of the river since before Christianity, since at least the 2nd century. It was probably ancient at that stage anyway. This, correctly Búvinda, B-O-U-V-I-N-D-A, could be taken to mean illuminated cow, suggesting a goddess in bovine shape. The Celtic word vind covered a semantic range from the colour white to illumination and wisdom. In this latter sense, it was personified as a great seer, known in Old Irish as Find or Fionn, and there is good reason to believe that the name of the river was closely connected with the cult of this personage. Thus, Bóinn would originally have been the wisdom-giving cow associated with the archetypal seer. Well, I think it's deeper than that, and we'll go into that later. Her imagery is paralleled from another early Indo-European source, Sanskrit literature, which symbolised sacred rivers as flowing from a mystical cow, and that indeed is very important. In early Irish literature, it was said that if a person drinks from the water from the river Boyne in June, he will become a seer poet. And I think it's very interesting in that regard that the drinking water, or the tap water for the population of Drogheda, where I live, actually comes from the Boyne. It's pumped from the Boyne Canal, which is joined to the Boyne River, up from the pumping station at Roughgrange, from Stilleen up the hill to Roughgrange on the top of Red Mountain in Donore, and from there it flows down through the pipes into our taps. So there you go. Oh, I should catch up on the comments, shouldn't I? Wendy Holmes says, I wouldn't miss these. Thanks, Anthony. Hello again, Wendy. You're very welcome along on this Friday evening. I hope that you and all of your loved ones are safe and well. Laura Murphy. I can't tune in now, but this is going to be the epicentre of my weekend. Bóinn Abu. Well, Laura, I'm sure that you'll be able to catch up on the video later on. And I hope that you and all of yours are safe and sound. Okay. Right, we're okay to continue, I think. The goddess in bovine form was anciently worshipped by the continental Celts under names such as Damona and Stirona, and there is some evidence that the name Bóinne was also used for her abroad in connection with springs. And here's this interesting now, right? So pay attention, class. In that case, the Bóinne cult would have existed in Celtic areas abroad before being brought to Ireland and connected to the popular Irish River. I'm not sure if it wasn't the other way round, in fact. It seems indeed that Bóinne was originally another name, or an epithetical name, for the great river goddess of the continental Celts called Danu. Namely, Danu Bóinne, or Danu the milk-giving and inspiring. And indeed, I read that earlier on and I forgot to mark it. That is extremely important to my own work. So I'm going to mark it in pencil, always in pencil, never in pen. I don't like to mark books in pen. As might be expected, the cult underwent its own particular development in Ireland. In the medieval literature, Bóinn is described as the wife of Nectan, which is a pseudonym for Nuadu, and we met Nuadu in the stories of the Battle of Moytura in the very early episodes, in the first couple of episodes. And thus we can see that at some early stage of Irish tradition, the cult of the Seer Fionn had that of Nuadu superimposed on it. The reason for this seems to have been the rich aquatic imagery associated with Nuadu, and hence it was claimed that the source of the river was a well called the She, or the otherworld dwelling, of Nectan. The medieval place lore, that's the Dindshenchas, from which we'll be reading momentarily, states that only Nectan himself and his cupbearers could approach the well, and the eyes of anybody else who looked on its water would burst. Okay, I'm not going to tell the story, because we're going to do that from the Dindshenchas. As Great Mother, Bóinn is portrayed as a partner of the father deity, for a 9th century story tells of the Dagda becoming her lover. This he does by a trick, sending her husband away on business for 9 months. This period appears to be only a day, and in the meantime he lies with Bóinn, and she gives birth to Angus of Newgrange, the archetypal youth. The imagery here seems to have been influenced by traditions concerning the divine youth called the Mock Og, and an older personage, who may be Nuadu. We may presume that such imagery was borrowed from British Celtic lore concerning the deities Maponos and Nodons, but the original myth would appear to have been that Fionn, representing the seer craft, was born out of the union of the Dagda and Bóinn. The source of the River Boyne, in the townland of Newbury, near Carbery in County Kildare, is still regarded as a sacred place. It is a holy well, dedicated to the Holy Trinity and frequented on Trinity Sunday. Perhaps, as an echo of its ancient imagery, the water of the well is believed to hold a cure for failing eyesight, and that is the work of the wonderfully marvellous Daithí Ó Hógáin, the late great Daithí Ó Hógáin. And so we turn to the book that only arrived since yesterday's episode, and the reason I was getting so excited last night, and that is the Metrical Dindshenchas. Now, Edward Gwynn, who was a scholar of the first part of the 20th century, translated the Dindshenchas, which is this collection of place name lore found in some of the old manuscripts, including the Book of Leinster. I have. It's not difficult to get your hand on electronic versions of these, but I did not have volume 3 in printed book form, and this is reprinted by Forgotten Books, and not too expensively either. And it's not it's not a recast in new type or anything. It is an exact facsimile of the original, an exact copy. Everything is there, so it's fabulous. So we're going to read, and there are two stories about Boann, B-O-Fada-A-N-D, or actually there's no Fada on the O in this, Boann 1 and Boann 2, which in my humble opinion is one thing that indicates how important she was. That she gets not just one poem in the Metrical Dindshenchas, but she actually gets two. She nachten son forschen slave lecht mich laurade lawn gear as a sealan in shrush slawn dinid anium boand be lawn. Now I'm not going to read the entire Irish, but it's nice just to hear those words. She nechten is the name that is on the mountain here, the grave of the full keen son of Laurie, from which flows the stainless river, whose name is Boand ever full. 15 names, certainty of disputes, given to this stream we enumerate, from Shenechten away until it reaches the paradise of Adam. And you can see throughout Dindshenchas, you can see these incursions, the hand of the Christian scribes, making the pagan pre-Christian mythology that little bit more palatable to their own beliefs and to their own biblical story. Segush was her name in the Shee, to be sung by thee in every land. River of Segush is her name from that point to the pool of Mochua the cleric. From the well of righteous Mochua to the bounds of Mead's wide plain, the arm of Nuadu's wife and her leg are the two noble and exalted names. And this quatrain is very important because it says that the river in two sections is called the arm of Nuadu's leg and the arm of Nuadu's wife and her leg. And this is from the story of dismemberment, which we will get to shortly. But it is very important because it's traces of a very, very old creation myth. From the bounds of goodly Meath till she reaches the sea's green floor, she is called the great silver yoke and the white marrow of Phalimit. And in that regard, I highly recommend, of course I would, that you read my book Mythical Ireland, New Light on the Ancient Past, the chapter in section 7 that deals with ancient Irish names for the Milky Way. Stormy wave from thence onward unto branchy Coolnge, river of the white hazel from stern Coolnge to the loch of Yochu Redbrows. And that's very interesting too. White hazel was the wood from which Elkmar's divining rod, his fork of white hazel, was made, and he was described as standing at Newgrange in Tuchmark Etain, in the wooing of Etain. Bana, and of course, don't forget that hazel is a wood used for divining water and water sources, which I think is very important, especially with regard to wells and streams and rivers. Just catching up on the comments. Annie Singleton, finally catching you live. Hiya, Anthony. Hope you and yours are all well. These readings have been great. Hi, Annie. Yeah, all keeping great so far. Thanks very much. All sane as well, which is important. And I hope the same for you and all yours. Tom the Bonk says, have you ever talked about on Dagda? Yes, we did indeed, Tom. We covered Dagda in... it might have been episode 5, actually. And just shortly, I'm going to paste as a comment beneath this video. You'll see it as a comment now. Oh, sorry, you're on YouTube. I'll paste it as a comment on YouTube. A link to the blog where you can see all the previous episodes in one place. Let me just double check. No, it wasn't episode 5. It was episode 4. Dagda, Chief of the Tuatha Dé Danann. Yes. Bana. Oh, sorry, I forgot to do the Facebook comments. Anthony, settle down. Patricia Loughran McTague says she will have to catch it later because she's too much to do at the moment. That's perfectly okay, Patricia, but I'm saying hello so that you can catch up and on the YouTube video later. Vicky Wallace Southall is in Oregon. You're very welcome back, Vicky. Hope you and yours are all very well. Who else? Federica Guy. Hi, Anthony. A little bit late tonight. As I always say, better late than never. Always welcome to the fireside stories. And I think that's us up to date. Banna is her name from faultless Loch Ness, roof of the ocean as far as Scotland. Lunand she is in blameless Scotland. The name denotes her according to its meaning. And what's happening here is it seems that they're going to name all the great rivers of the world as being the equivalent of Bóinn. That, in other words, all these sacred rivers, that they emanate from the landscape, and they carry this, this liquid, which is so fundamentally important to our own lives, Rowan Grove is saying hello from Colorado, and I'm not sure if you've been on before, Rowan, but you're very welcome along to Live Irish Myths here, episode 16 from Tuatha, from the Bridge on the Ford here in County Louth. Julianne Osborne is watching. Hello, Julianne, you're very welcome back. Vicky Wallace Southall is saying, my son Evan is listening. Hello, Evan. Very nice to have you along to the storytelling. And you're all very welcome. Severn, she is called, through the land of the Sound Saxons. Tiber in the Romans' keep. River Jordan thereafter in the east. And vast river Euphrates. River Tigris in enduring paradise. Long is she in the east, a time of wandering, from paradise back again hither, to the streams of this sheed. Boann is her general pleasant name, from the Shee to the sea wall. I remember the cause whence is named, the water of the wife of Laurie's son. Nectan, son of bold Laurie, whose wife was Boann, I aver. A secret well there was in his stead, from which gushed forth every kind of mysterious evil. Now I wonder if that again is an intrusion on the part of the monks. But what's interesting about the well, reference, better not get too distracted here, Anthony, reference C.G. Jung, Carl Jung, in this book, The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious. Jung says, and I don't have to find the quote because I actually know it, he says that water is the universal symbol of the unconscious. And of course it would be full of mysterious evil, because if you try to look deep into your own unconscious, the risk is always that there will be an eruption, and the contents of your unconscious will erupt and basically overwhelm you. Okay, where was I? Yes. Nectan, yes, every kind of mysterious evil. There was none that would look to its bottom, and of course, if this is symbolic of the unconscious, well, too many people are afraid to look deep into their own selves, aren't they? But his two bright eyes would burst, and if he should move to left or right, he would not come from it without blemish. Therefore none of them dared approach it, save Nectan and his cupbearers. These are their names, famed for brilliant deed, Flesk and Lamb and Luam. Hither came on a day white Boann, her noble pride uplifted her, to the never-failing well, to make trial of its power. As thrice she walked round about the well heedlessly, 3 waves burst from it, whence came the death of Boann. They came each wave of them against a limb. They disfigured the soft blooming woman. A wave against her foot, a wave against her perfect eye. The 3rd wave shatters one hand. She rushed to the sea. It was better for her to escape her blemish, so that none might see her mutilation. On herself fell her reproach. Every way the woman went, the cold white water followed. From the Shee to the sea, not weak it was, so that thence it is called Boann. Boann, from the bosom of our mighty river bank, was mother of great and goodly Angus. The son she bore to the Dagda, bright honour, in spite of the man of this she. That's S-I-F-O-D-H, the old Irish name for the monuments, the great mounds. Or Boann is bow and find, from the meeting of the two royal streams, the water from bright Shliagura and the river of the Sheeds here. Dabilla, the name of the faithful dog, who belonged to the wife of Nechtan, great and noble, the lapdog of Boann the famous, which went after her when she perished. The sea current swept it away as far as the stony crags, and they made two portions of it, so that they were named therefrom. They stand to the east of Broadbreg, the two stones in the blue waters of the loch. Cnochdabilla is so called, from that day to this, from the little dog of the she. And that's where that's where poem 1 ends. And this Dabilla is Rockabill, the twin islands out off the coast of County Dublin in the Irish Sea. And there's a very interesting connection there with the mouth of the River Boyne, where two standing stones are aligned specially, well, two of them towards Fornox, but one of them towards Rockabill, where the sun rises on winter solstice. And Dabilla was the lapdog, or the dog, the pet dog, as it were, of Boann, and it says that he also was either chased down the river as it formed, or followed her down and was drowned along with Boann out at sea. Just making sure I'm up to date with the comments. Rowan, first time live, great stuff. I can sort of guess the meaning of the Irish, but it would help the Americans learn it if you were speaking it to translate. Thank you all. Yes, of course, Aaron. We'll do our best. So when I say fáilte, that means welcome. And when I use a little bit of Irish, and I only have a little bit of Irish, but when I use Irish, I will try also to say the same thing in English, no problem. Federica Guy, the unconscious can overflow as water when it comes to the surface. Precisely, exactly. So this is poem 2 in the Metrical Dindshenchas, and this is part 3, or volume 3 of the Metrical Dindshenchas. O Mel Chachlin, son of Donal, of the family of Cumgall's daughter, I will tell thee, O Prince of Meath, the tale of white bright Boann. Boann, a blessing on the stream, did Christ fair of form ordain. So she from glen to glen is the river Jordan of Erin. And giving it a distinctly Christianized feel here now, suggesting that it is the river in which people should be baptized. Findlifa, Find of the fierce galleon, from the union of two names, from their meeting is Mag Find named, Swift Findlifa and Mifind. One of the two Finns that wins victory flows past Tara from the northeast. There at the confluence it meets with white-bellied Boann. Boguri, which flows eastward past Talchu through Loch Munramar. Boguri is the name of the river, which is called Great Banna. As there is Orden and An, or Aun, from which the river Jordan is called, so Boann is bow and find, from the meeting of the two royal waters. Thither from the south came Boann, wife of Nechtan, to the love tryst in the house of Elkmar, lord of horses, a man that gave many a good judgment. And this is very interesting now, what is following, and I will try to give an explanation for it as well. Thither came by chance the Dagda, into the house of famous Elkmar. He fell to importuning the woman. He brought her to the birth in a single day. It was then they made the sun stand still, to the end of 9 months. Strange the tale, warming the noble ether in the roof of the perfect firmament. Then said the woman here, Union with thee, that were my one desire. And Angus shall be the boy's name, said the Dagda in noble wise. Boann went from the house in haste to see if she could reach the well. She was sure of hiding her guilt if she could attain to bathe in it. And so here we have Bóinn running from her illicit union with Dagda because she's married, and that she's going to wash herself of her guilt in the well. Where have I heard that before? A little water will wash us of this deed. Macbeth, isn't it? And here I think again, where we have the Christian monks perhaps painting Boann in the role of Eve, you know. The Druids' 3 cupbearers, Flesk and Lesk and Luam, Nechtan MacNamat, set to watch his farewell. Actually, let's just check that for a moment, because I think those names are slightly different than the names were given in Poem 1. Yes, in Poem 1, Flesk and Lam and Luam. And in Poem 2, Flesk and Lesk and Luam. So one of the names changes from Lam to Flesk, from Lam to Lesk. Lesk about that, the better. Never mind, terrible. The Druids' 3 cupbearers, Flesk and Lesk and Luam, Nechtan MacNamat, set to watch his farewell. To them came gentle Boann. Toward the well, in sooth, the strong fountain rose over her and drowned her finally. It was contrived against the river on either shore, by Mael Morda, vast of wealth, by the comely son of Morcha, that it should not reach the inlet of ships. God's mercy was shown on Lech Huind by that counsel, so that it escaped the swift night of gloom unto thee, O generous Mael Shachlin. And I think Mael Shachlin was one of the high kings of Tara in the early medieval period, or pseudo-historical king of Tara, I think. Could be mistaken about that. So just back to that one. Thither came by chance the Dagda into the house of Elkmar, Dagda being the solar deity, and we dealt with Dagda in episode 4. And that he entered the house of Elkmar, the house of Elkmar being Newgrange, because as we're always saying, in one thread of mythology, Dagda claims to be the first owner of Newgrange and its builder, but in another thread of mythology, Elkmar is in fact its owner. So the house of Elkmar is Newgrange. He brought Bóinn to birth in a single day. They made the sun stand still, which is fascinating, because I've dealt with this, and perhaps when you get an opportunity to read that book about the Dagda, A Harp, Club and Cauldron, you'll read the chapter that I wrote for that book and the astronomical mythology that is contained therein in relation to this story. The standing still of the sun, as the sun deity basically makes union with the swollen belly, or the very uterine passage womb of Newgrange. The sun is indeed standing still, because that is the winter solstice, and solstice means standing still sun, because its rising position does not move for several days in a row. And then the woman here, union with thee, that were my one desire, and Angus shall be the boy's name. And Angus, of course, was famously called Angus Og, Angus the young, or Angus Machanog, Angus the youthful one, son of the young. I think that also could mean son of the virgin, because of the way in which the whole thing happens. But Angus, it is said, was called Angus Og because young is the son who was conceived at the beginning of the day and born between that and the evening time of the same day. Eddie Driftwood. Sorry, I've missed a few. There's somebody called November, who's also signing as Tiernanog on YouTube, is saying hello from West Virginia. Hello, November. Thank you so much for these videos. They're keeping me sane along with the garden. Brilliant. Could you please do a video on Eru? Oh, very interesting. Yes, an excellent suggestion. And I'm going to open my Live Myths suggestions file. Yes, absolutely, Eru. That's a brilliant suggestion. Okay, and that is from November in West Virginia. Okay, thank you for that. Brilliant idea. And we might also cover Banba and Fola in the same episode. Eddie Driftwood says, hi Anthony, have you read much about the Egyptian goddess Nut, who was associated with the Milky Way and the River Nile in Egypt? There's a number of similarities. I have indeed, and I've written about it in my Mythical Ireland book. And there's a very interesting carving at Nouth that I talk about that looks very like the Egyptian rendering of Nut. MEDHI says, glad to listen from the great writer and researcher, enjoying and having great time with you. Well, glad to have you along this evening. Very, very glad. Just checking. Jacqueline Kennedy Art is watching. Hello, Jacqueline. You're very welcome as always. Fáilte. Okay, I think we're up to speed. So then I was going to read, there's a slightly different version of the story of Boann in the Rennes Dindshenchas, and this is the Dindshenchas manuscript, which is kept in Rennes in France. And so the Metrical Dindshenchas is... Oh, we have an issue. Sorry, we had a momentary dropping off in the signal there on Facebook. The Metrical Dindshenchas is, of course, rhyme, but the Rennes Dindshenchas contains prose versions of the stories. Boann, wife of Nectan, son of Laurie, went to the secret well which was in the green of She Nectan. Whoever went to it would not come from it without his 2 eyes bursting, unless it were Nectan himself and his 3 cupbearers, whose names were Flesk and Lam and Luam. So Lam is back here and the other guy is gone. Once upon a time, Boann went through pride to test the well's power, and declared that it had no secret force which could shatter her form, and thrice she walked with her shins around the well. And of course, the normal way to walk around a well or something sacred was Jeshel, with the sun, sunwise or clockwise. With her shins or Tuhal was likely to result in ill omen or ill luck. Whereupon 3 waves from the well break over her and deprive her of a thigh and 1 of her hands and 1 of her eyes. Then she, fleeing her shame, turns seaward with the water behind her as far as the Boyne mouth, where she was drowned. Now she was the mother of Aengus, son of the Dagda. Or thus, and of course there's always alternatives in the Dindshenchas. Ba, B.A. Fada, the name of the stream of She Nectan, and Find, the river of Slieve Guri, and from their confluence is the name Boann, equals Bo plus Find. It's almost written like a mathematical sum. Dabilla was the name of her lapdog, whence Knuk Dabilla, Dabilla's hill, today called Slieve Coty, the mountain of the covenant, which is very interesting, isn't it? The mountain of the covenant. And I know some of the people inevitably who will be watching the YouTube version of this will jump on that and go, Ark of the Covenant, I knew it was buried in Ireland, where is that? Go on, I dare you. No, I won't even tempt fate. Don't you dare go to Rockabill and try to dig a hole in the ground. So now I'm going to read a passage from Island of the Setting Sun, in search of Ireland's ancient astronomers. And Tracy says, so anti-clockwise results in connecting with the shadow away from the sun. Very interesting observation there, Tracy. Thank you for that. Eddie Driftwood says, thanks, Anthony. We'll order the book. Brilliant stuff, Eddie, and I hope you enjoy it. Boann and Dabilla, from More Cow Lore, and a tale, I'll try not to repeat here if I can, and a tale involving a Mother Earth and River and Moon Goddess. We turn to another story involving the Boyne River and the Rockabill Islands. This one, a very famous legend, preserved in the books of Lecan and Ballymote and known far and wide. It is the story of how the Boyne was formed and how the goddess Boann was washed out to sea with her lapdog. And I have to say that we first heard it from a prominent folklorist in Drogheda, the late Cochleen Bonnie Carberry, in Carberry's pub in Drogheda, who told it accurately and fluently to us one night at the bar, and that was when myself and Richard Moore were sitting at the bar in Carberry's pub, and that has to be 19 or 20 years ago. And Bonnie Carberry, the late great Kellen Bonnie Carberry, told us the story. The story begins at a place called Carberry in County Kildare, and the well, which is known as the Well of the Blessed Trinity, called Nectan's Well in ancient times, and as you saw from the Dindshenchas, also called Segish. It was located at the foot of the hill of Carberry, which was said to be the she or fairy hill of Nectan, king of Leinster. Nectan, or Nuadu as he was also known, was said to have been Bowen's husband. And of course, we're talking kings of Leinster as if that's a medieval thing, but of course that these personalities, these characters, are based on much earlier mythical characters. Was said to have been Boann's husband. This is Nectar or Nuadu, and he kept a secret well in his garden. No one was allowed to approach it except the 3 cupbearers. But Bóinn was curious and became determined to test the powers. Okay, so we know the rest of the story, and so I want to skip the story and talk about some interpretation. The exact whereabouts of Boann's drowning was not precisely recorded, but it seems she was drowned somewhere in the Irish Sea. We can connect Boann with both the Moon and the Milky Way galaxy, and also help to interpret this great legend, which recalls an ancient time when people looked up to the heavens and, with great imagination, recorded the happenings they saw played out on the great vault of the cosmos. In the Bóinn story, she appears to be wounded by the waters of the Boyne. The Irish phrase meaning the moon in its last quarter is Gwyn Ray, and the word Gwyn, Goin, on its own can mean act of wounding or slaying. Our connection with the moon will for now remain tentative, and of course in that wise you have to actually get yourself a copy of Island of the Setting Sun and read the whole lot, so it's not so tentative. But the translation illuminated cow could be a reference to the fact that the moon does not shine by its own light, but rather by the reflected light of the sun. We will see later how the ancients would have known this from their many years of observations. One very strong cosmic link with the Boyne Valley has been overlooked, forgotten almost, and can help prove an astronomical link to the ancient river cow goddess. In the Irish language, the Milky Way, the bright bands of our galaxy, which can be seen in the night sky, is called Bóthar na Bófinne, the road of the white cow, or Bealach na Bófinne, the way of the white cow. So the Boyne River and the Milky Way, the cosmic river, share a similar name and the same meaning. Ireland is not unique in having a river which was possibly considered to flow from heaven to earth. In fact, quote, one faces a frightening confusion between the rivers in heaven and those on earth, and the names which were given to both kinds of streams. And I must insist on following that reference so that I can tell you that's footnote number 57 for chapter 1. I have to tell you what that's quoted from, because it wouldn't be fair to leave it hanging like that, because some of you might not have the book. And that's from Hamlet's Mill. That's from Hamlet's Mill. The ancient Egyptians regarded the Milky Way as a kind of celestial Nile. So there you go, same idea. As above, so below, heaven's mirror. To speculate further, Boann's lapdog Dabila could be equated with one of the dog constellations of the sky. These are Canis Major and Canis Minor, the big dog and the small dog. Sirius, the dog star, the main star of Canis Major, is the brightest star of the entire night sky. In the Irish Stone Age, the dog star shared the same rising place as winter solstice sunrise, which can be demonstrated using computer software which simulates the night sky. So, in essence, as I think I mentioned in one of the previous episodes, an observer at night time crawling into through the passage of Newgrange into its chamber, lying prostrate in the chamber, would be able to see the bright dog star shining through the roof box every night. And so you wouldn't have to wait until this particular time of the year, at the time of solstice, to see an astronomical event aligning with Newgrange, and indeed the moon itself on more than a few occasions in its 18.6 year nodal rotation would shine into Newgrange. Okay, so then it goes on to talk about the standing stones at Baltray, but I'm going to leave that bit there. And then the next bit is from the book Mythical Ireland, New Light on the Ancient Past. And this is just a little bit of interpretation of what's gone before, so I hope you can follow it. In the story of Nectan's Well, which is approached in provocation and curiosity by the goddess Bóinn, a woman who dares to enter a male-only domain, Perhaps that's an influence of the patriarchal church, who knows. There is a similar theme relating to the breaking through of a fearful threshold in order to look down into the waters of the well, symbolising the unconscious. Now, Coda, I had you on screen earlier on. You could hear him a minute ago playing with his bowl. He gets the metal bowl and throws it round the place. He's getting rather excitable. Maybe he wants another appearance. Maybe he wants to read. There was none that would look to its bottom, but his 2 bright eyes would burst. Why should anyone fear to look to the bottom of the well? The fear is that, peering too far, too soon into the depths of one's own unconscious, the initiate will become overwhelmed, and that the process will be a destructive one rather than a restorative one. The water is a living symbol of the dark psyche, and of course that's from Jung. And the real danger is that the removal of the mask of ego will reveal an unfamiliar self, our own shadow. Whoever looks into the mirror of the water will see first of all his own face. The mirror does not flatter, it faithfully shows whatever looks into it, namely the face we never show to the world, the mask of the actor. Nothing is more disillusioning than the discovery of our own inadequacy. And that's from Jung, and I believe that is from the aforementioned, but I just want to make sure I have the title right, The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious. In Bóinn's case, she walks heedlessly, in quotes, around the well 3 times, and 3 waves burst from it, deforming her. She loses a foot, a hand and an eye, and is washed down from the well towards the sea, where she drowns. The barriers and dams, represented by rite and dogma in religious systems, were designed, says Jung, to keep back the dangers of the unconscious. When these barriers collapse, the waters rise, and boundless catastrophes break over mankind. And yes, somebody, Tracy is pointing out that Coda is Debilla. Yeah, well, he's been barking throughout many of the episodes, sometimes when there hasn't been a mention of canines. The concept of she as threshold, the doorway between the conscious and unconscious self, is a fascinating and invigorating possibility. The shadow is a tight passage, and this is another quote from Jung. The shadow is a tight passage, a narrow door, whose painful constriction no one is spared who goes down to the deep well. Isn't that fabulous? The genius, the absolute genius that Jung was. Could we be altogether sure that among its other purposes, which no doubt included death and rebirth rites for the ancestors along with ancient astronomical observations, Newgrange did not also serve as a place of initiation? Standing at the doorway of the great She, in the far-gone ages of the past, the initiate would be facing a journey into complete darkness, literally and perhaps metaphorically. And so it happens that if anyone, in whatever society, undertakes for himself the perilous journey into the darkness by descending either intentionally or unintentionally into the crooked lanes of his own spiritual labyrinth, he soon finds himself in a landscape of symbolical figures, any one of which may swallow him, which is no less marvellous than the wild Siberian world of the Pudak and sacred mountains. In the vocabulary of the mystics, this is the second stage of the way, that of the purification of the self, when the senses are cleansed and humbled, and the energies and interests concentrated upon transcendental things. Indeed, and I need go no further with that reading, but that is a little bit of interpretation into what the symbolism of the Well of Segis might represent, and why it was stated that people should be so fearful of looking into it lest they become overwhelmed. So that really is the story of Bóinn. Now, this is an interesting one. Bóinn is by association Tuatha Dé Danann, right? She conceives with Dagda, the chief of the deities, the solar deity, the sun god, the miracle offspring, Angus. She's represented as the pregnant earth and the fertile earth. So she has aspects of fertile earth mother about her, by the passage womb of Newgrange. The river, which is so fundamentally important for travel and also, of course, for providing water and nourishment, and for perhaps providing water to feed cattle with when the farmers brought agriculture to Ireland, the builders of Newgrange, and perhaps also too for cooking and for drinking and for washing and all that sort of stuff, you know. But I think too there's something very interesting here which I may have mentioned in previous episodes, and that is the connection with the story of the Mata. And the Mata is this great monster that is slowly creeping up the river valley, drinking the Boyne and licking it up until it is a dry river valley. And according to different versions of the story of the Mata is killed by either the men of Ireland, the men of Ulster, or Dagda himself at a mysterious stone on Newgrange called Lech Ben, and dismembered and thrown piece by piece into the Boyne. And some of those pieces go on and form landscape features. So in the very same, I think it's volume 3, I hope it is anyway, I'm pretty sure it is. In the same volume, he says, keeping his fingers crossed, I'm looking for Clia Coolan. Yes, there it is, page 100, is the story of Clia. And listen to this, okay? Now, I'm not going to go too far from the Bóinn story. Behold Clia before you a while. So this is the Dindshenchas story of Dublin. And Clia, Baile Clia, the town of the ford of the hurdles, is a name that is very ancient. A name for Dublin that is derived from the Dindshenchas stories. Or at least, perhaps the name was there anyway, and the Dindshenchas stories just reflect that. Baile Clia, before you a while, O tower that ever guardest the gale, what warrior, what dame has plundered it and given its name to the ford? The sin of Adam's wife brought upon us, the senseless, rough sporting beast. Now what it's suggesting here is that the Mata, the monster, was actually brought upon us because of the sin of Eve. So there you go, the same thing again, the same theme, the monks trying to make the old Irish place name lore fit in with their worldview. Long since had the seer foretold the beast that was on Lech Ben, and there is that mysterious stone, Lecccbenn, the Lech Ben, which is said, sorry, I know Facebook will be backwards, YouTube will be the normal way around. Lech Ben, which is Ben being a peak or a horn or, you know, a sort of a summit, and Lech being a stone or slab, the stone on the summit. The beast that was on Lech Ben had 70 feet 4 heads. Its shank and its toe reached hither. It licked up Bóinn till it became a valley. The beast, when the narrow swelled, if thou art skilled among the numbers of the young, the strange beast, it found rest. It was slain on Brug Macindog. It was killed on Newgrange. And this is something that I go into in quite a lot of depth in my book, Mythical Ireland, New Light on the Ancient Past. Who was the right that planted the palisade? In its great size he set it in the ford. What is this palisade, we wonder? It shall abide in the pool till doomsday. The frame of the beast's chest made a cast round Erin, a coast that everyone knew, and the restless sea tossed it. Thereafter it befell that it reached the ford. The king of the elements, noble motion, the lord of each man's secret thoughts, the prince of nature, the son of my God. He it is that would protect my every weakling. And of course there's nothing more actually there about it, but Clia is the ford of the hurdles, or the rib cage, the chest of the Mata that was dismembered, and this part of the monster flows out from the Boyne, out along the coast and into the River Liffey, where it forms the ford of Dublin. I can't explain it in too much depth right now, but you need to perhaps follow up with Mythical Ireland. And the reason I think the two are similar is because in both cases it's to do with the deprivation of water. So clearly the Boyne hasn't been formed up until the point that Bóinn approaches the well. And when this eruption happens, Bóinn it runs away from the water, but the water follows her. It's, in other words, this is a very early creation or origin myth, an origin myth of the Boyne, how the Boyne was formed in mythology. Bóinn is the mother, or earth, and she is the only female who dares to enter the She of Nectan and to approach the Well of Segish, or Nectan's Well, because it's a male-only domain. Mata could be from the root word of Móthar, which is the Irish for mother, and it has been suggested by more than one person that that connection makes the Mata likely to have been a female monster. And of course all this ties in with very ancient Indo-European and indeed international early creation myths that could be up to 20,000 years old, relating to the slaying of a beast and its dismemberment. And it's one of the great themes of creation mythology. And for a brilliant, brilliant book about that, you could not go much further than Myths of Creation by Philip Freund. And he, sorry, I know that's backwards for the Facebook viewers. I apologise about that. I'm not using an iPhone, so I can't mirror the image on a Huawei phone. But he, in this wonderful book, among other things, Freund details the 5 major creation myth themes, because most creation myths fit into a theme. So, for instance, the theme of the Great Flood, the flood which forces Noah to build the ark and bring the animals, that myth is present in different versions, in dozens and dozens and dozens of traditions around the world. In fact, Graham Hancock says there are 500 different versions of that myth. And so the dismemberment is just another form of that. Now, in relation to that, that last one, and dismemberment, if you go back to Mythical Ireland, and somebody who was watching yesterday was very delighted that I mentioned Iliade. If you go and have a look at, I'm just making sure this is the right thing. Yes. This blog post that I'm just about to paste in as a comment on both YouTube, there's the YouTube one, and on Facebook, that is about this creation myth and how it relates to Ireland and Newgrange, and Dagda and Bóinn. Patricia McAteer is watching. Hello, Patricia. You're very welcome. Very glad to have you along this evening. Who else? Eddie Mackin says, brilliant as always, many thanks. And thank you very much, Eddie. I hope that you are in great form and that you're safe and sound. Aria Ivancic Art is saying hello from North Italy. Well, Aria, I know that Italy is having a woeful time at the moment, and please accept our very best wishes to you and all the people of your country who are fighting this illness at this very difficult time for you. You're in our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts all the time. Melanie Lynn is watching. Hello, Melanie. Very nice of you to join us. We've just been talking about Bóinn, or Boann, the goddess of the Boyne. Stephen Cable, may neighbours respect you, trouble neglect you, the angels protect you, and heaven accept you. Lovely. Thank you, Stephen. And the same to you and to all your loved ones. Lisa Murray is watching from New Zealand. Hello, Lisa. Good morning to you. I guess it's morning there. I'm just at a rough estimate. I'd say it's 8 o'clock here. It's possibly 8 o'clock there. Is it 8 a.m. there? 7, 8, 9 a.m. there? Wow, fantastic. You're very welcome along. Hi, Melanie. Melanie says hello. Lovely to see you again, Melanie. Carol Barrett, thanks yet again from Galway, from Galway. And you're very welcome, Carol. All the people of the west coast of Ireland who are watching are very welcome indeed. And the same for the people in the west coast of the United States. And speaking of the United States, Angel Hart says hello from New York. Thank you for this presentation. I'm delighted to do it. It is my great pleasure, and it's my life's work, you know. Lisa Murray says it's 9 a.m. Great work. 9 a.m. in New Zealand. Wow. And you're in the 28th. You're in Saturday already. Well, I hope it's a lovely day for you. It's been a very nice day here. Alex Casterson, that was my other theory, Catherine, because if so, he goes by the name of Meiki. That's the story version I read. Jules Cousins, I've come in a bit late, but I will catch the YouTube. Hi, Jules. Good of you to join us, and better late than never, of course. Folks, I would be very glad to take any questions or further comments. If not, we can say, for the moment anyway, we could say that's the end of episode 16, and we look forward to episode 17. And just to say again, in relation to Bóinn, I was asked by some of my friends recently. We were having a chat on a WhatsApp group, and the discussion came up about Boann. It's like, what is she exactly? I think that her personage is primordial. I think that she existed before all the other deities. I think that she's perhaps another version of Cailleach Bui, Calivira. I think that she was possibly a Neolithic goddess and possibly even a pre-Neolithic goddess, who goes under different guises and names. But I think it's exceptionally important that she is tied to Newgrange. And let us not forget that the scholars who always say Brúna Bóinne, the mansion of the Boyne, are missing the point. Now, I know they're probably translating it literally, the mansion of the Boyne. The Boyne is Bóinn. It is the mansion of Bóinn. It is not just her abode, it is her body in essence. It is inevitably seen as a swelling or, a pregnancy, as it were, of the earth, the way it looms up out of the ridge, So anyway, I think that she's very, very ancient. Is the Táin Bó Cúailnge on your list, Anthony? Catherine Wall McManus wants to know. Now, the thing is, right, that not specifically, we will undoubtedly touch upon it on a few occasions. And it's not. Now, if I was to do the Táin, that could take a long time. So I'll put it down on the list. But perhaps when we've run out of topics, we could just start and read the whole Táin. But if there's something specific from the Táin that you would like, Catherine, then we will have a look at it, absolutely. Catherine Wall McManus. Just taking these suggestions down as they come in. Thank you very much for that. Alex Casterson, do you think the monster that Dagda thought could possibly be the Loch Ness monster they talk about in Alba? Yeah, I think that there are similar threads here, that when you hear about these monsters referred to, that it's going back to the same theme. Like we talked on St. Patrick's Day, we spoke about the legend that Patrick banished the snakes into the sea. The snakes never existed. Was he doing exactly what Dagda had done, driving this great monster into the sea when the Dagda made the waters of Muirhevna recede, bringing this great monster with him? So I think it's back to the old mythology, the pre-Christian mythology of the sun deity defeating the monster. Take a look back up this chat. There are several questions. Oh, okay, I've missed some. Thank you, Aaron, for pointing that out. Where are they? Watching from New Zealand. Tracy O'Connor. So perhaps the essence of the story is that if you approach the depths of your shadow, be sure to do so accompanied by the three sacred virtues / lenses of Flesk, Lesk and Lam. Orion ? Wisdom, love and power, which will lead to an expanded vision, two eyes bursting. A very interesting point. And of course, yes, one of the things is that one does not approach the well heedlessly and alone. That the work of the unconscious is careful work, sometimes taking years, and that has to be done in the company of what we would call seasoned practitioners. Tom Lawler says, watching from County Tipperary. Hi Tom, very good evening to you. Lovely to see you this evening on the webcast here. I'm not seeing the rest of the questions, so I apologise if I've missed those. And on YouTube, Erica Rivertree says connections between Mata and Cailleach. Well, I think I've kind of maybe covered it, Erica, to an extent, in that I think that Boann and Cailleach have a lot in common, and Mata and Boann being connected through the maternal thing and the dismemberment and the release of the river and the creative aspect of it. Desiree Riley says, hi from Louisiana. It was wonderful seeing your pup. Thanks again for your readings. Thanks, Desiree. Lovely to have you along. And Erica says, almost time here in Louisville for Friday glass of homemade mead and shortbread. Well, very nice, and may you enjoy that. Patty Kreidner says hello from St. Pete in FL in Florida. You're very welcome, Patty, and it's been good to have you along. Could you also do the story of Maeve? Yes, Maeve is on the list. Maeve is already on the list, Alex. You'll be glad to hear. So she's there. Queen Maeve. Oh man, we've loads to talk about, and this is episode 16, and I thought at this stage we might be running out of things to talk about. Turns out we've only started scratching the surface. Anyway, I think that's it for this evening. It's gone over the hour. Not that I mean, if we go to an hour and a half, we go to an hour and a half. If the discussion is that good. At this point, can I just say, again, we should raise a glass and say thanks to all those people who are working on the front lines of the current COVID-19 situation, in particular the medical professionals working in all the hospitals and medical establishments who are trying to deal with this awful crisis, to all of the governments and government bodies who are doing their very best under very trying circumstances to make life continue as normally as it possibly can. And indeed, somebody that I forgot last night when we were doing our little applause for the frontline workers is those who are working in retail and those who are working in farming, who are making sure that we're still getting fed and that we're still drinking and that we're still healthy. Thank you to one and all. So anyway, this has been Live Irish Myths, episode 16. I'm Anthony Murphy. This is Mythical Ireland. Don't forget to pop over to the website, mythicalireland.com. There's tons of stuff on there. On the YouTube channel, there's hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of videos for your enjoyment. If you're a patron, especially at the Bronze Age level and above, I make regular, at least one monthly video for patrons at that level. That is not released to the public for several months afterwards. So if you want high quality stuff and you want the best stuff, you have to become a patron. Sorry, but I just have to give you the facts. In the meantime, may you all have a lovely Friday evening or a lovely Saturday if you're in New Zealand or in Australia. I wish you all a very pleasant evening or a very pleasant morning. Hope you all have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep washing your hands, keep a distance between yourselves and everybody physically, but remember, stay in touch. We have this wonderful technology that enables us all to be friends across the miles and across huge distances, as we've been demonstrating with this series. It's been so wonderful and so heartening to have so many people along from so many different parts of the world to join in these ancient stories and to be enjoying them so much. May you all have a good weekend. I will stop talking now and I'll talk to you tomorrow for episode 17. Haven't decided what that's going to be yet, but I announce usually in the middle of the day, sometime around 1 p.m. Irish time, I announce tomorrow's episode. So hopefully you'll be able to join us tomorrow live. If you're watching this as a video after the fact, hello anyway, and hopefully you'll join one of the lives soon. Just making sure I haven't forgotten anything. Ihawa, every one of you. Bye-bye and take it easy. And there goes the Facebook version, and farewell to all of the YouTube viewers as well.